Hi guys, welcome back to the channel, and in today's video we will take a look at a VWAP indicator. So I'm sure that majority of you know what VWAP indicator is, but basically it's a very powerful indicator that can be used either for a trend confirmation or mean reversion. It's like a tool that you can use for every type of trading basically. And yeah, I will show you how you can create your own VWAP indicator in an MQL5 editor, and when we are done, it will look something like this. I know that there's a lot of lines and objects right now, so it can be hard um, to make a sense of this, but I'm sure that when we are done, everything will be perfectly clear. Just before we start, I just want to tell you that if you don't want to stick for the coding part and you just want to get this indicator, you can get it. Just go into the description of this video. There's a link to my website where you can download this VWAP indicator for free. And I also have a lot of other free indicators for you in there. So yeah, go check it out. And yeah, let's start with the coding part. So I'll switch to my MT5 editor, which is right here, and as you can see, I have already created the indicator. So in this video I won't be coding, I will just show you the code and I will explain how it works and why it works as it does. Okay, so firstly I will explain the idea of the VWAP indicator, because I think that's the main part to understand before we start. And yeah, so I will go back here, and as you can see that I have these separators right here, and each separator basically tells you where a new day starts. So this is a new day, this is a new day, this is a new day. And when we zoom on the chart, you can see that at every new day, the VWAP indicator resets. Okay, so for example, these bands here, as the day goes by, they are wider and wider, and then a new day comes. That's right here, and all of the lines reset to the initial point. And yeah, so that's the first thing about the VWAP, and that is that on every new day the indicator resets. The second thing about VWAP is that it shows you the average price for the current day, but the magic of it is that it also uses a volume in order to do so. Okay, so with uh, with indicators such as moving average or Bollinger Bands or something some different indicators, you only get the price. Okay, but in trading, the volume is also a very important part of the price action, and therefore this is one of the best indicators for this, because it will show you the price and also the volume. It will put it into a context to each other, and therefore it's one of the best tools you can use. Okay, and I think this is basically the important stuff. And yeah, um, the VWAP line is this thick white line. Okay, so this is like the main VWAP line, and then you can see that I have more lines here. So these upper bands and lower bands, and these are basically the standard deviations of the VWAP line. Okay, so these are just standard deviations that can be used as well. But the main VWAP line is this thick white line. Yeah, so that's for the explanation part, and let's get to the MT5 editor finally. Okay, so when I started, the first thing I had to do is that I had to initialize the visualization part of the indicator. So I am creating properties for each of the visualization objects. So the first one is for the VWAP, so that's the white thick line as I've showed you. And then I have created 4 more objects or like visualization plots for those upper and lower bands. Okay, so this is just very simple stuff. There's nothing much to say about this, I guess. Then I created an input parameters. So I think it will be better to explain these as we continue with the coding part. So I will skip this section for now. Then, of course, when we are creating a new indicator, we have to create buffers for like each of the plot or each of the data set. Okay, I hope this makes sense. So I've created a few buffers here. So the first buffer is for the VWAP line, so that's the main line. And then I have created 4 more buffers. Each of them is for the deviation of the VWAP. So these buffers are for those upper and lower bands. Okay, and you can see here that I call it the first deviation 1, first deviation 2. So they are really just deviations of the VWAP. Okay, then I've created a prefix for creating objects because, then when I, like for example, change a chart to some lower time frame, I want to delete all of the objects with this with this prefix. So that's just why I have it there. But none of this is really that important. As we continue, you can see that I am on init function, and the first thing that I do is that I delete all of the objects that have this prefix in its name. So yeah, that's what I'm doing here. Then I redraw the chart, so that's also not something that is very interesting. And then I set the index buffers. So this is also something that you have to do with your indicators, and if you've seen my previous videos where I create some other indicators, you know that this is like something that you have to do. Okay, so nothing fancy in here, just simple stuff so far. And then we move on to this calculate function where are basically calculate the VWAP values for the available data. So as you can see here, I am creating a for loop. So I am looping through all of the available data points in the history. And for each of them, I am calling this get VWAP function. And this will be basically our main function that I will explain right now. Okay, so this is where the magic happens. Okay, so this is the get VWAP function in which I calculate the VWAP values, and then I assign those values to these plots right here. Okay, so this is the main function for the VWAP indicator. So yeah, let's get to it. Okay, so I think this is not needed. I'll just, okay, is it just 1 second, because I'm value, okay, just 1 second, okay, wow, okay, I think that the value or variable wasn't needed, so I'll just check if everything looks normal, and it or was it needed? I don't think it was. Okay, I will just leave it there in case, because I've created this indicator a while ago and I don't think it's needed, but just for a case. So let's start. Um, right here you can see that I have created a few arrays. Okay, the first array is for storing the average price, okay, for the day. The second array is for storing the volumes for each candlestick over the day. And VWAPs, that's the array that I use for calculating and storing the VWAP values. Okay, so the first important thing is that you have to create an arrays. That's because based on the arrays, you then calculate some values. For example, as standard deviation. Okay, and you can calculate a standard deviation only from a set of values. So that's why you need an array. So this will be just these arrays are just for storing some important values. Then what I've done next is that I've created this time variable, okay, and basically I've done this because if you remember what I've said here, that the VWAP indicator restarts on each new day. So I've done this like to be able to capture when the new day starts. So this is just something that I need to have in order to be able to progress with my code. Then I have this static integer called last day. Yeah, I will show you its usage later. Iteration, also not important right here, and first. This boolean variable first like tells me whether it's the first time I run this function or not. But this is not that important. Okay, so let's get to the important stuff. So I start with an if-else statement in which I check whether the new day started or not. So if the last day, so here you can see the last day variable, if the last day is different than the the current day, okay, so day of year, so basically if today is 150th day of the year, and this is a bad example. Okay, let's start again. Basically I check if new day started. If this condition is true, therefore there's a new day, I will assign a number of that new day to the last day variable. Okay, so that's what I'm doing here. And for some reason I set value to 0. That's the variable I wasn't sure about, and probably it's not needed, but I will leave it there. Then what I do is that I also initialize an iteration variable to 0. So iteration variable is used so I know like how many bars have happened in the day so far. Okay, then I check if there's a first iteration, and if there's not a first iteration, so basically the first iteration happens at the, okay, I won't be able to scroll there, but basically it's like the first day of the available history. Okay, so that's like our first first condition. And yeah, so if we are not on our first day, then I will create some objects here. I will skip this part for now and I will get to that later, because this is not something needed for the VWAP indicator. This is just like a nice feature that I've added. And basically on every new day, then I continue and I resize all of these arrays so they have size of 0. Okay, so they don't contain any values. So I like restart the arrays. I hope that makes sense. And I set the first variable to false. Also nothing fancy here. And the main stuff that happens right here. So here is the part where I collect the needed values that I need in order to calculate the VWAP. Okay, so this really wasn't like that important. You just have to resize the arrays on every new day and you are good to go. And here the magic happens. So with the volumes array, what I do is that I firstly resize the volumes array. So I dynamically create a new space in that array, and then I assign a value to that new space, and I assign it a value of I volume. Okay, so basically I am storing a volume values into that array for that specific day. And then I do the same thing for the average price. Okay, so I resize this TPVs array, and then I assign a value to the TPVs array of, it looks something like this. So basically this is the formula for calculating the VWAP. So you take a high price plus low price plus close price, okay, and then you divide it by the volume times 3. Okay, so this is just like a formula that you have to use in order to get the VWAP value. Yeah, so this is very important right here. And then what I do is that I basically sum all of the volume values. Okay, so I take the volumes array and I sum up all of its values, and I store that value into this volume sum variable. And then I do exactly the same thing for the total price. So I take the TPVs array right here, and then I sum up all of its values and I store it into this total price variable. So that's basically what's needed for the VWAP. And then I also calculate the standard deviation from the VWAPs array. Okay. Now that I think of it, I think that this line should be right here, because firstly I want to create a new VWAP in the VWAPs array, and then I want to call this standard deviation function. Okay, so I've moved it right here. Yeah, so let's continue. So after summing up all of the TPVs values, I do the exactly same thing for the VWAP array. So what I do is that I firstly resize the VWAPs array. So I create a VWAP array of larger size, and then I assign a new value to the VWAPs array that is equal to total price divided by the volume sum. Okay, and that's our VWAP value. So this value is for this thick white line. So that's it. Yeah, and then what I just basically do is that I calculate the standard deviation that I use for those lower and upper bands, and I assign the values to the buffers. So here I am assigning that VWAP value to the VWAP buffer, okay? And then I do the same thing for the first and second deviations. So I take the VWAP, so this is the VWAP, and then I either increase or decrease the value bar by the standard deviation multiplied by this deviation coefficient. Okay, and that's basically it. That's basically how you create a VWAP indicator. This is like the most basic stuff right here. First, let's check the deviation parameters. The deviation parameters are right here in the input section, and you can basically like select how many deviations you want to use. So the initial values that I have chose are 2 and 4, but what I can do, for example, here, if I go right here and I select the second deviation to be 10 and the first deviation to be 1, you can see that the lines change accordingly. Okay, so you can like change the deviations, but that's not like a focus of this video. Okay, so that's that. Then I have added some more functionalities, and that's basically when you use a VWAP indicator, what you want to do is that for the current day, it's you want to have like an information from the previous day. So if you check these lines right here, you can see that these lines correspond with the last VWAP values from the previous day. So for example, if we look at this day, the VWAP closed right here, and you can see that there's this blue line that corresponds with the previous VWAP. If we, for example, look at the first lower band, which ended right here, you can see that you have this dotted line that corresponds with this first lower band. And it's exactly the same for the higher bands or upper bands as well. And yeah, this just gives you some information for the current day, because if you study a VWAP indicator, you can come up with some good strategies based on the previous day. Okay, so that's like a good feature to have. Of course, in the inputs menu, what I have added is that you can either enable or disable the lines. So show closing, if I set it to false, I won't see this blue line which corresponds with the VWAP. And yeah, I can also disable so this is like the first deviations, and this is for the second deviation. So if I disable all of it, you just get this VWAP indicator without the lines. And yeah, I create the lines right here. Okay, so you can see that I firstly check like whether the user wants to create those objects or not, and if these conditions are set to true, then I create these levels right here. You can see that I am creating them only at the start of a new day, so that's why it's in this if-else statement. And yeah, if you want to see this create level function, it's very simple. Basically, it takes a few parameters. The first is price, so that's on which price the level should be created. Then it takes a color argument, name argument, line style, and date time. Okay, and then it just creates a very simple trend line with all of the parameters. Yeah, so yeah, as you can see, it's not that difficult to create a VWAP indicator. You just have to create a good structure for your code, and yeah, it's really not that difficult. So feel free to create your own VWAP based on this script. And as I've said before, if you don't feel like coding all of this by yourself, what you can do is that you can go into the description of this video. There's a link to my website, and you can download this VWAP indicator for free. Okay, so yeah, that's it for this video. Thank you for watching, and I will see you in the next one. Bye.